Testing. Whatever, it should be good. Uh, so I'm recording this because too many people I've seen make mechs without knowing why they work the way they do. They follow a YouTube tutorial, do exactly what it says, and they make something that's kind of okay. But afterwards, they make a slight change, and they can't figure out, for the life of them, why it's not working. So, today, it's just going to be unedited video I'm going to post of how to, I guess, make it yourself. I'm going to show you my process. I'm going to speak my thoughts out loud so you could follow along and see the reasoning behind it. And I have made things like this big guy, which you might have seen before. Punches super duper hard. Guys like this. Very acrobatic. So I definitely know what I'm talking about. And I'm just going to make a simple walker from scratch. And I'm going to start with a core, because the most important thing is balance. And I'm going to use normal gyros rather than gyro stabilizers, because you have a lot more control over normal gyros than you do gyro stabilizers. For those that don't know, you can use an angle sensor set to normalized or measurement as, like a data form of the gyro stabilizer. So if you just put that into a gyro, then you're all good. I set it to negative 0.02 because measurement outputs the exact angle. So if I had it on -1, if it were on its side, like this, it would put out 90, because it's trying to get this to rotate, or my bad, it would rotate -90 because it would be trying to get it to rotate this way. But these things, gyros and servos and stuff, they only work between -1 and 1. So if I put it onto this, it would just be vibrating back and forth extremely rapidly as it nails from one side to the other. And I just found 0.02 is a good starting position. And this one is going to be positive 0.02, because if negative is backwards, and whatchamacallit, this one is facing the same way as this one, right? So that needs to be negative. But this one is facing opposite to this one. If it were facing the same direction, it would be like this. But since it's backwards, this also needs to be backwards. If I did everything correctly, you should see... Yep. Stabilizing itself nice and well. And then, just for good measure, whenever you're walking, this will prevent you from turning when you don't mean to. Just doing this to complete the look. Boxy McBoxface. Now, I'm going to make it like this because I like how it looks when it all fits perfectly. You'll see what I mean in a second. For both of these, I'm going to set the speed to max, and I'm going to set the angle to 90. And I'm making it so that red is for contracting the joint, and green is for extending the joint. And then I'm going to mimic that on the other side, because you know how when you flip it over, red and green get swapped? So you need to swap it again in order to get them both facing the same direction. I'm just doing this to make it look good. And since this is the knee, it is going to, it might need to bend a lot more than this one. So this needs to go that way and that way. But this one might need to go all the way from here to here. Like, worst case scenario, right? So I set that to 130, just so it has more wiggle room. And the contracting, or which we call it, when it contracts, it's when you bend the knee so it faces the opposite direction of this one. Do that for both sides as well. Just using that so it doesn't collide with that, but it's still full block. It's a little small compared to the thighs. So I'm just moving everything up too. So that's better. Then I'm going to put the servos for the legs here, or the ankles, I mean. And since it contracts this way, it'll be identical to that one. But since the ankle needs to move significantly less, I normally find 60 is a good range of motion for the ankles. I don't want the foot to collide with this, so I'm thinking about using a different block instead. Oh. There we go. And then I'll use this one for here, and I will flip this around so that that collides nicely. And even though now it looks like red is back and green is forward, that's just because the servo itself is backwards. So red is still forwards, green is still backwards. Excuse me. And for the feet, I'm considering doing this because I find adding at least one weight, 50 kilogram, 30 kilogram, whatever works better for you, at least one is normally good for a walk cycle. And I'm just going to put these at the very tip of the toes because when you step down, it puts more pressure on this, so it gets nice friction added to it. Right now I'm just making sure all the proportions are nice. This might have a little bit of clipping, actually, because this can get very close to this when it bends. So instead, I'm going to move those servos in, like this. And I'm going to have them connected to this. Which means now I can get rid of this and instead make it look nice. I want to avoid colliding with the square of the bottom of the servo, so I'm going to do the same thing for the knees that I did with the ankles. And then I'm going to have this up higher. So this, the square, will rotate along with the God damn it, what's that called again? The calf. this will rotate with the calf, so it won't have to worry about colliding with the square of this, since it'll be circular. And this should be fine. I think that looks nice. So now I'm going to set up the basic timer. I use this to go back and forth between each leg. So you have two exclusive OR gates, or XOR. You have two of them. One goes into this. This one doesn't go into anything yet. But you give both of them the same input for walk forwards. And then you set the delay, duration, and pause to however much time you want between each step. This is me holding W, by the way. See how it goes back and forth nicely? Then you stop, and it stops. And that way, you only need to change the delay, duration, and pause for the single gate right there. I think for this, 0.8 would probably be alright. And also I noticed that it's kind of spinning on its own without me telling it to do anything, which makes me believe the gyros are too strong for its weight. But instead of reducing the strength of the gyros, instead I'm going to replace this 2x4 with two 50 kilograms. So as you can see now, it's not doing that anymore. This has to do with a more advanced topic called weld groups, which is just kind of a whole thing on its own. I'll get into it a little bit later if it pops up, but just know that if you have a floppy limb, like a servo that's not acting correctly, if you just put a 30 kilogram or a 50 kilogram underneath it, then it normally fixes it. So like if this whole entire leg were floppy, putting a 50 kilogram here and here should fix it. Now I'm going to use two OR gates for each joint, and I'm going to color code it to make it easy to remember what's what. And I'm color coding it, if you can't tell, the same color as these arrows to make it even easier to keep track of what's going on. Doing it for each joint. I'm just trying to keep it generally out of the way, so I'm actually going to move these ones forward a bit so I can move these up. We might not even necessarily end up needing all of them, but this should be generally the max, right? I'm actually going to arrange it like this so it's easier to showcase how I attach it to the central timer. So this represents the left leg going forward, and this represents the right leg going forward. So I'm going to have this one contract, 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 and extend, extend, extend. So this one will make the left leg go forward, and the right leg will go backwards. And this one, contract, 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 extend, 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 will make the right leg go forward, and the left one will go backwards. And then all you need to do is tie both of them to each joint respectively. Now, off the bat, almost, this joint here, remember, since it's backwards, it looks backwards, but you never really want the knee to go in the green direction, right? It's just because it's not the way your knee goes. So, off the bat, I'm going to get rid of those ones. And, whatchamacallit, I'm just doing final double checks. So, for the very first one, you'll notice it's not really a good walk cycle. In fact, let me move these up again. I think I forgot to bind some of them. Oh, no, it's not that I forgot to bind them, my bad. It's I forgot to make these ones negative. So, red should be negative because red is, you know, negative. And green should be positive. So you should already be able to see, generally speaking, the start of a walk cycle, right? But obviously, it's way too strong, way too fast, way too clunky. So, firstly, I'm going to set the damping of all of these to 10. It makes it, damping basically makes it accelerate slower and over time. If it's 0 damping, it'll basically snap instantly to position and freak the hell out. But if it's 10, it takes more time, and it's easier to smooth out the kinks, as you can see. So, firstly, it's the leg is going way too far back and staying way too far back. So I'm going to set this to 0.4 for now. It already looks way better and it's way more stable. And then I noticed that the knee stays bent too long. And when the knee bends on one leg and unbends on the other at the same time, it makes it really bouncy. So I'm going to make it so that it only lasts close to the end. So I'm going to give it like 0.6 duration. You see how it leaves? It unbends slightly before the rest of them unbend, and it's starting to resemble a normal walk much more. Now, this one, I noticed that the foot stays bent like that way too long, which makes it take too much time for it to get up into position, all that stuff. And it also it extends too far. So I'm just going to extend it a little bit so it actually presses against the ground. You should be able to see where it's going. And I'm going to do the same for this one. Now, the issue is that these hips, whenever they activate, jolts the whole thing way too fast. So I'm going to set the speed lower. Now look at that, we're already getting a decent looking walk cycle. No, I still think this is staying out a little bit too far, or for too long. So, that didn't work. Let's see if I do this instead then. No. Oh, I know. It's because the knees, or the calf area, is significantly larger than the hip area. If you look at it from the joint perspective, this only has like a single block between them. You know, like this is one these two are one joint, this is nothing, and these two are also one joint. So, and there's 4 between these. So I should have better luck if I do this instead. Still not perfect, as you can see. But I think it's the correct direction. So if I add some more space, that's already starting to look better. Now I just want to undo that, because that, yeah, I was kind of messing up there. Now I'm just trying to think. It's definitely bobbing back and forth too much because the gyros aren't strong enough. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 more on both axes. That's holding it much more upright and steady, which is a good thing. So now I'll try messing with the duration. Gonna make that one open earlier. You see that scooping motion? That's exactly what we want. Thinking maybe this is a little bit too big. Let's try this. Still think that these are going a little strong, but whatever. I'm going to turn the strength of the feet down so it can adapt better with weight being pressed on it. And also the strength of this down. That way it stomps against the floor a little bit weaker, makes it more stable in general. I think I'm going to replace these with heavyweight blocks as well. And I'm going to make them end sooner as well. There we go. That's starting to look nice. I'm going to try putting a slight delay on the backwards part, the extending. The reason for that is because a lot of the times the bounce comes from both legs doing something at the same time. I'm just looking at it, looking how it moves to check for any tiny things that I could do better. I think it would look better if it was walking a little bit faster, so let me try this. Oops. Let's try a little faster. That's looking nice. Now the timings are probably a little messed up again. Yeah, the duration is the entire duration. So I'm going to try doing this instead. Make this end a little bit sooner. Ooh, look at that. We're getting somewhere good. There's no sudden jolts. There's no random skipping of the feet. I think we're done with this walk cycle then. Awesome. I suggest before you, whatchamacallit, before you move on, hide these in an area that makes sense for them to be, but is also easy to access. So I'm going to put the ones for the feet or the ankles here. And the ones for the knees here. And the ones for the hips. First I'm going to swap those around. And swap those around. Then I'm going to delete those. And instead replace them with, with the logic, right? Like this. So that should look much better. Very nice. Now we can clean this part up a bit. We could replace, or we could move these gyros down here, where those 2x4 were, instead. We could make it so that the gyros there are like that, and that. Trying to think of a better... Oh. I could do this. And then those exclusive ores will be over there. Then I move those back there again. So now it should be more obviously balanced. Now I am going to make the next part. I'm just going to make this into a, I guess, a little puncher guy. So, in order to make a good punch, you need to be able to use your torso. Let's just use this for now. You're going to need to use your torso, and you're going to need to use your shoulders and your elbows. So I'm going to make it so extending is up on both sides. An angle of 90, so you have the full range of motion. Just going to hold it in place with panels for now. And I'm going to use these to get that rounded outness. It just looks nicer. And I'll copy it to that side. Make sure they're all facing the correct direction. Now I'm working on the other part of your shoulder that goes back and forth. And again, I'm going to use this because I think it looks nice when it fully fills an area. So this will be the forearm. It's looking a little bit big, actually. Let's try this instead. And then this will be the elbow. My eye burns. Sorry. Then I'll just copy all that over. This one, similarly to the knees, should have a higher angle because it needs to bend more. And just so I could see what it will look like when it's all up and good. It's looking decent so far. Oh, but as you can see, the walk cycle is kind of struggling now. It seems that the knees are the point of failure. So I'm going to turn the damping down a bit. Oop. I don't know why that happened. Didn't quite fix it. Let me try turning the strength up a bit. Not quite. Turn the strength up some more. I'm going to turn the damping down some more. I think I might know what's happening, actually. Right now, I'd be having a weld group issue. So this happens in some scenarios where on one side it will think it's very lightweight, and on the other side it'll think it's very heavy. Or actually, that's a gross oversimplification. Basically, there's an algorithm that's used to make it so calculating physics is way easier for the game. If they had to calculate physics for every single block individually, it would not even work with a single build. So what they do is there's an algorithm that groups a bunch of blocks together, and then the physics engine uses that to base everything else off of. So right now, these knees think they're mounted on something a lot more lightweight, and in order for it to not freak the hell out, like when it's on zero damping, it artificially, I think, in the code, makes them weaker. So what I'm going to attempt is to make them stronger again by using a big-ass weight. Oh, yep. See, they're already much stronger now. So I think I need to put that back down to what it was before. I still got the floppy legs, kind of intentionally, I will say. Still not exactly how I want it to work. There we go. I think the first time I tried fixing the weld group, it didn't work. Yeah, there we are. That's the issue right there, I think. Getting back to the right place. Why are you being like that? And that works better. Let's see. Oh yeah, whenever you respawn, weld groups are recalculated. Oh. Seems the foot is also having some issues over here. Let me try something. Okay, maybe the feet are too weak right now then. Hmm. No, they should all be the same. So I think there's another weld issue afoot. Great. I hate weld groups. Least explained part of the game. Worst part too. Yeah, some weld fuckery. See, now I figured it out. The square part here is colliding with the weld group right next to it, which it shouldn't. It shouldn't, but I think it's because it's making a weld group here, and then it's making another weld group here. So it's being really annoying because this technically counts as two weld groups, the head and the base. So that's the base. This is one weld group, and it doesn't collide with this weld group that the head is attached to. And then because it makes another weld group over here, this isn't the same weld group as the head, so it does collide with this one again, which is just incredibly annoying and stupidly inconsistent. Fix your game, devs. There, now it's not colliding anymore. I need to put it back. But now they're too weak again. Because of the weld groups. There we go. You can kind of think of weld groups as a consistency thing. If you have bad weld groups, your mech will perform inconsistently. Sometimes it might be good, but other times it might be incredibly weak and it'll do the stanky leg and it just won't work the way you want it to at all, right? Which is not fun, of course. So, you saw what I've been doing to combat the weld group bullshit. Just gonna respawn and fix it. Yep, still good. And still good. Alright, awesome. I'm gonna make this a little bit thinner so the arms are closer together. Now I'm going to, whatchamacallit, I'm going to make the punch, and then it'll be done. Oh yeah, just for convenience sake for yourself, color code these guys too. Just connecting them all up now. So it looks like these go out a little bit much. You're going to want it to fully extend without looking weird. Let's try this. That's good. I think that'll look good when it punches out. Force of habit. This part is going to be for the torso. And this part is going to be for these gyros. Did I... Salmon, right? Yes, salmon. And it's going to follow the same pattern, except they're going to turn off quickly. Because as you can see, you don't want it to overswing. It just becomes less controllable. There we go. And there we go. Less than an hour. Made a fully working big freaking punchy guy from scratch. And you just put all of these in the locations. Sorry about my dog, guys. I think I'll also put the elbow ones here, because there's not really a good spot to put them on the actual elbow. And in order to reduce complexity, what did I just do? Sorry, I'm giving myself a stroke for a second. Oh, right. I have this backwards. Oopsies. I don't know how I didn't notice that. There we go. It's as snug as a rug. And then I'll just put all the NOR gates around here, I guess. Also, I didn't mention it before, but it's pretty good practice to save regularly. Uh, if you don't, you'll end up in a situation where you go down a path that you're not satisfied with and you can't undo it. See that? Big, strong, punchy guy. Of course, could use some tweaks, but that's outside of this walkthrough, I guess. So if you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments below. And have a good one. Oh yeah, like and subscribe to or whatever.